Hello and welcome back to my podcast, Unwind and Knit with me. My name is Lisa and I'm coming to you from Christchurch in New Zealand. This is my little part of the internet world where I talk about my knitting journey, my yarns, patterns, my online store and everything yarny related. So if you are a returning viewer, welcome back and thank you. And if you are new to my channel, welcome. I hope you enjoy the content. As always, please subscribe if you haven't already. Give it the thumbs up, press the notification button. That just helps me in my little place in this megaverse of the internet. So thank you to everybody that has already subscribed. Okay, this is episode 58 and today is Friday the 19th of July. And sorry, lost my train of thought there. Friday the 19th of July. You can find me or follow me on Instagram and Facebook as Unwind and Knit with me. Also, my website and my online store is unwindandknit.com. And also via my website, you can subscribe for my newsletter. My newsletter doesn't come out very often, maybe once a month, once every 6 weeks. So you can rest assured that I won't be spamming your inbox. But please go and subscribe to that newsletter. And I only use that if I have new products or something that I feel that is important that I want to get out there. So yes, please subscribe and please subscribe to my newsletter. Also, everything I talk about here, I leave show notes for. So you can click the link below and I will leave links to everything like books or yarns or tutorials or patterns. So yeah, there'll be reference there to everything. Yeah, and just thank you for being here. And I know there's a lot of knitting podcasts, so if you have chose to spend your time with me, I really appreciate it. This could be an hour and a half, so grab your knitting, grab a cuppa and sit back and enjoy it, I hope. I am a little bit late coming to you with episode 58. I got a bit of a cold which affected my voice. I didn't really lose my voice, but it went quite croaky. It has returned. It's still a little bit raspy, so hopefully I can get through this okay. So yeah, we're right in the middle of our winter here in the Southern Hemisphere, and it's really funny when I watch my friends in Canada, and if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, right in the middle of a heat wave, and weather bombs and tornadoes and storms. And here it is so cold and it's so gloomy. And what I'll say, the one thing I love about Christchurch, although it gets really cold and we get really hard frosts, the days are always sunny. We get a lot of sunshine hours, but the last month has been so overcast and we've had a lot of fog that hasn't lifted throughout the day. So it has been really quite grey and gloomy, and a lot of our days, our high has been single figures, like 8, 9, 10 degrees. So I'll say I am envious of you that have got all the warm weather, but I also understand that comes with a downside as well when it just gets too hot. But I am a summer person. I'd rather be too hot than too cold. So anyway, the good thing about winter as knitters is it's sweater season and it's just a nice comfortable time to sit in front of the fire and knit. So there's always a positive side, I think there is. Okay, so I'm hoping the lighting is better on this episode. I'm playing around with a different light. I also am trialing some new software which I won't use for this podcast, but I am having a play around. I'm just trying to improve things a little bit. I had to go and buy a new computer. Mine was just getting too slow and the processors in it were getting too old to actually upload my videos. My videos were too big, so I had to just eventually bite the bullet and think I just have to go and buy a new computer. So I thought it was also a good time to look at some new lighting and software. So anyway, we'll see what happens. it may improve it, or I may just stick with what I've always done. Okay, so what I'm wearing today, I'm really happy with this. So this is the Tolsta tee by the Bay, which I've got it here. Rebecca Clow is her name. She's the designer. She's designed some really nice garments, really good basics. But this one here, the Tolsta tee, when you purchase it, it comes in a 4-ply and an 8-ply, or finger in DK version, and that's the pattern there, Tolsta tee. And I just love the construction of this. It's top down, it's in the round, it's a raglan, which I love. There's some really clever shaping under the arm here. It's just a really nice wearable piece. I've done this in the 4-ply version, and the only modification really that I made was I did a deep, probably about a 3-inch twisted rib hem, as opposed to a short one. But it's a sort of pattern that you could do so many modifications to this. You could do stripes, you could do long sleeve, short sleeve. And actually, when you purchase the pattern from Ravelry, it comes with a few pages of images of other people's modifications and what they did. So a really nice pattern to have as what I would call a wardrobe staple. I am going to insert a small photo or video of me wearing it. If you've watched me for long enough, you'll know that I don't actually like getting up and standing in front of the camera. I find it really awkward, and I actually don't like filming myself modeling it either, but I have done, and I will insert the video so you can see the whole thing back and front. It is short sleeve, but as you can see, I'm wearing it over a merino base layer. It is warm in my house, but it certainly wasn't t-shirt weather. So I will just insert that little video, and you can see it back and front as a full view. Okay, I've also got a little remote control for stop and start of the video, and sometimes it's working and sometimes it's not. So a new bit of technology that I'm playing with. So that's the Tolsta tee. I hope you like it. The yarn that I used was called Opus, and I bought it at Knit City when I was in Toronto. The colour is called Taffy, and I'm just trying to read it. It's 70% merino and 30% baby yak, and it's really soft. And I've not knitted a lot with yak. I think my glasses are reflecting. I haven't knitted a lot with yak, but this is really soft. It came in 100 gram skeins, or 400 meters, 350 meters, and I only used 2. So I was pretty happy with that because I've got a spare. I did buy 3, and I kept knitting. I wanted a deeper band, as you can see, it's about a 3-inch band. And so I just kept knitting until I ran out of yarn, and I didn't need to break into the 3rd skein. So 200 grams and 700 meters I used to knit this. I did do the size 4, and the other, I mentioned this in my last podcast, I used a really nice bind off, and it's called the Alternating Cable Bind Off, and it's by Cheryl Toy, and there's a really nice tutorial in YouTube. I will leave the link below for that tutorial. But if you're looking for a nice bind off, it looks like is it called a tubular bind off? But it's not you don't have to measure out your yarn and sew it off. You knit it off. It's a really nice bind off, finishes the garment beautifully, really nice detail, without it being too complicated. So I'll leave the link below for that cast off, and that's probably about all I've got to say. on that pattern. Highly recommend it, would do it again. Well worth the money that you pay for it, because you get both versions, 4-ply and 8-ply, and like I said, you could do it short sleeve, long sleeve, lots of different variations that you could do with that pattern. The next pattern I want to talk about, I showed you on my last podcast, but I have to make a wee correction. So in my last podcast, I had a whole lot of new yarns that I'd brought home with me from Knit City in Toronto, and a lot of new patterns to go with the yarns. And one of the yarns that I showed you was a DK, and my plan was to knit the Rocket Tee with it. But when I purchased the pattern, and I showed it to you on my last podcast, I thought something just wasn't right, but I just went with it. And then after the podcast had come out, I realized that what I had done, I'll show you first. So it's the Rocket Tee, and it's by Tanis Lavallee here. And what I had done is purchase this pattern, which is the finger in weight 4-ply version. I didn't purchase the DK version, which is the one I bought the yarn for. So I've still got that yarn, and I haven't purchased that pattern for the DK yet. So I thought something just wasn't right, and that's what it was. So wee correction there from my last podcast. But I love this. So this Rocket Tee is striped, and it's alternating between finger in weight yarn and mohair. It's a little bit like Hohi Locatelli did the Elton sweater, or the Elton cardigan, which was really popular, and that alternated stripes with finger in weight and mohair. So I had a look at it and realized what my mistake was, and I thought, well, I like it and I'm going to do it anyway. So that's the correction. But actually, I'm just going to segue into something else for a minute before I go on with this. Between last time I podcast and now, I'm not sure if I mentioned or not, but I came home from Canada with this mission to reorganize my stash. So my stash has lived in big plastic Sistema boxes upstairs, not on display, and I had stuff in my stash I'd forgotten about, that I didn't even know I had, and I was aware of that. So after our daughter moved out of home last year, I reclaimed one of the bedrooms, because she took the bed with her. She took the furniture with her, so I had a spare room. And I went and I knew in my mind what I wanted, and I bought some white shelving, IKEA, with glass doors. They look really good. And when I've got upstairs looking just right, I will photograph and video and show it to you. So what I've managed to do is all of my stash has come out of boxes, and it's on these beautiful white shelves behind glass doors. So I can walk in there, and at a glance, I can see everything, and I'm in love with it. It's so, so nice just to be reacquainted with my stash. What it also enabled me to do was dig out things that I need to rehome, whether I sell them or donate them to charity knitters. I'm not sure. But the reason why I wanted to mention this, because I know that you will all understand what I'm talking about. As a knitter, I'm just talking about myself here, over probably the last 6 to 8 years, my knitting has really evolved, and I've grown and I've changed the way I knit, the things I knit, the yarn. It's a journey, is what I'll say. And I've evolved, and I have yarn in my stash that I'm not going to use. I know at the time I thought I was going to, and I thought I loved it, but I can hand on heart look at it and thought, I don't know why I'm hanging on to it. So I have put a lot of yarn aside that I am going to, we have a website here in New Zealand, which is a yarn buy, sell and exchange. I will list some of it on there, because some of it is actually too good just to give away, but I have got a lot of other things that I will donate to charity knitters. So in saying that, I'll get back to the Rocket Tee. So when I looked at this pattern, I'm quite determined to start using some of my stash, and I come across this beautiful skein of kid silk mohair, and it's by a local dyer here in New Zealand called Happy Go Knitty, and it's got it's showing up beautifully, grey and pink and natural colour. I've got this skein which is about 400 meters, but then I also had these two silk mohair that are left over from other projects that I've done. So, and I thought they just look beautiful. Let's see, they just look beautiful together, the three of those. So I'm going to use these three mohairs out of my stash. The other one I've got is this one here, which is also from a local dyer called Purple Sprouting. And this is, I do need my glasses. This is 50% merino, and there's 400 meters in this, and it's a silver. And I just think it's going to go beautiful together, the silver grey and the pink. And I did write some notes about it. So that's what I was going to say. So in the pattern, I'm thinking for the size that I would do, I'm going to need about 450 meters of each. I've definitely got 400 meters of this mohair and 400 meters of this. So I'm going to fall short about 50 meters of each one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a few rows of these two mohairs in between. And by doing that, I believe I'm going to get a really beautiful rocket tee out of this pattern that I purchased by mistake out of yarn from my stash. So I'm pretty happy about that. So I really encourage you to go through your stash, because that's literally just one skein of mohair and one skein of the silver. And these, which I mean, to be quite honest, I probably would have looked at them and thought, oh, they're partial skeins, I'll just put them in that box and donate them to charity knitters. I'm so glad I didn't, because it is silk mohair. It's beautiful, and it's going to get rehomed into that rocket tee. I'll leave the link below for this pattern. I think it's a really pretty pattern. It's a 24 stitch gauge. It's done top down in the round. It's a V-neck, and it has I-cord edging, which I think is just beautiful on a V-neck. Finishes it beautifully. It's worked flat until the neck shaping is complete, and then it's joined in the round. This one has about 6 inches of positive ease. And will I swatch? Probably not, because it's just stripes and it's mohair. But I should say yes, I'll swatch, but I probably won't. I'll probably just wing it and try it on as I go and hope for the best. So that's the rocket tee. I did purchase it by mistake, but now it's not a mistake. And the yarn that I did buy to do the 8-ply version has now been added into my stash. It's quite an impressive stash. It just brings me a lot of joy now. I just walk into that room for no other reason than to just sit there and look at it, where before it was all hidden away. So really, really happy at that project that I've done. Okay, I'm going to talk to you about a couple of my whips. I have been very restrained and I haven't cast on anything new, but I've made some really good progress on the whips that I have. But I have a heap of new patterns to show you as well, and yarns of things that I do want to cast on. And I have some yarn that I recommend for this, but I might show you that at the end in the shop update. Okay, I'm just going to get my whips. Okay, so my first whip is almost an FO, but not quite. And it's this beautiful cardigan here. Now this cardigan is called First Frost, and it's by my friend Elizabeth, and Elizabeth goes under the name of Amikihia Knits, and Elizabeth lives here in the same district as I do here in Canterbury. So she's a very talented designer, and I'll leave the links below, so go and have a look at some of her designs. And I really admire her because she works full-time as a registered nurse, and then she studied psychology, and she's raising 3 kids, and she's got a lifestyle section with a big veggie garden, and she's just so busy, yet she still finds time to design these beautiful patterns. Anyway, the first frost, I'm just going to show you a couple of pictures because I'm not sure how well that lace work's showing up. But you can see there it's got this beautiful lace work down the front. That lace work goes right around the bottom. I'll show you on this one. It also has the lace work panel down the back, and then this lace work along the bottom. So I have finished the body. There's that beautiful lace work. See that there. I've done 5 repeats of the lace work. The lace work's only done over 22 stitches, so it's a really easy, sort of a relaxing knit for something that has lace work, because it's only over 22 stitches, that panel. And I think it might be about a 24 repeat. Can't remember, but I did 5 repeats, so I did 5 lots of lace work, and now I am just doing this eyelet lace work around the bottom. So I have about, I think about 8 rows left on the bottom, and then all I have to do is pick up the band around the collar and down the side for the button band, which is just done in a garter stitch, just a really fine button band. I will put buttons on it. I don't know that I would wear it buttoned up, but because you can see it's quite a sort of a relaxed layering piece, sort of a transitional weather type piece, and that's how I'd probably wear it over a t-shirt, sort of when it's not too hot or not too cold. But I've really enjoyed this. The pattern is really quite flexible. So in the pattern, Elizabeth's referred to the yarn recommendation as being a DK. And what actually happened when she first designed it, it was for a 4-ply yarn, and the yarn she used in the original pattern was actually too loose and too drapey. So she went back to the drawing board and redid it in a DK. Now the stitch gauge is 22, but, excuse me, everything's rolling away. The gauge is 22. Now I've gone in the middle and I've used a sports weight yarn, and it's worked perfect, just perfect. I did do a swatch on the recommended needle size. I did get 22 stitch gauge, and the yarn I'm using is Yarnadelic, which is the sports weight yarn that I keep from the John Arbon Textiles mill out of the UK. And it's probably one of my most popular yarns, to be honest. It's a beautiful yarn. It's soft to the skin. It's not scratchy or itchy. It knits up beautifully. It doesn't pill too much. I get a little bit of pilling under the arms, but that's normal for the first few wears. But it's knitted up beautifully. I've used a colour called We Love You, which is a limited colour, and I've probably got about 6 or 7 left, but and I've never knitted in green, so it's a new colour for me and my wardrobe. I'm jumping out of my comfort zone a little bit, but I love this green because it's actually got bits of turquoise, and it's like a jade. It's a really, really pretty green, a really interesting green. So that's the colour that I've used. And what I will say, let me just go back here. I'm doing the size 3. I do tend to knit things a little bit big for me. I've talked about this before, about my sizing. And with this one, I did some measurements and I thought I don't want it oversized. I do actually want it quite fitted. So I'm doing a size 3. and I think I'm going to get it out of 3 skeins. I allowed 4, but I don't think I'm going to need to break into the 4th one. I still have quite a bit left of the 3rd, and I will weigh it at the end and I'll let you know. But if you're just doing size 1, 2, 3 or even 4, I think that you would get it out of 3 skeins. These 100 gram sports weight is 333 meters. So 3 of those is just giving you short of 1,000 meters. So it is top down. It is worked in the flat, which isn't my favorite thing. I just love working round it. In the round, I don't like working in the flat very much. I find that I don't knit, my knitting slows down a lot when I have to do a purl row, but it's just me. Cast on, so there's short rows to shape the back, shaping for the neck and the shoulders, and then you knit down to the armholes, and then you you pick up, you knit down to the back to the underarm, then you pick up at the shoulders, and then you knit forward, and then you join it and knit all in one big piece. What I will say, which is new to me, is the arms. So I've done a little bit of both sleeve, and it's called a sleeve cap, and you pick up your stitches as you would normally, but you knit a whole, oh, my light's just gone out, a whole series of short rows to form this sleeve cap, and I really like it. I think it looks really good, and I think it's going to fit, I think it's just going to hug the shoulders really nicely. And with this pattern, so you just do short row, short row, short row, right until you get to this point, and then I'm knitting down. And what Elizabeth has done here is she's allowed for a really relaxed sleeve, so there's no decreasing until you get to your cuff, and then there's quite aggressive, there's quite a lot of decreasing, and then there's a short twisted rib cuff band. In the pattern, she has allowed for like a bracelet length, almost a 3/4 length, which is probably what I will do, because I often roll my sleeves up anyway. So I probably will do this as a bracelet length sleeve. But of course you could alter that. You could do a longer sleeve. You could even do a longer body. This isn't by any means a cropped body, but it's just going to be nice. I'm really, really happy with it. And like I said, I'm pretty close to finishing it. I'll definitely have it finished as an FO for my next podcast. I'm going to see if I can get my light back. Don't you just love technology? Anyway, it's working. Yeah, so I think that's all I've got to say on the first frost cardigan. Like I said, I hope to have it finished. I have pretty well been fairly monogamous with my knitting. I haven't spent a lot of time on anything else, mainly that in the last 4 weeks. I won't spend much time on this because I've not made much progress, but this is my blueberry vodka lemonade by Thea Colman. I've talked about this a lot. It's my second one, because the first one I gifted to somebody because I got the sizing all wrong. I've literally, since I spoke to you last time, maybe done about that much on the body. So I'm really enjoying this, my second time around. I know it's going to be something that I'm really going to enjoy wearing, but I just haven't spent much time on it. So that's sitting in that little basket. There was something else I was going to say. That's what I wanted to say on this one. So I touched on it in my last episode, but I do, if you are tempted to do this, I do want to touch on it again. And that's just when I was doing my yarn overs, my slip knit, slip purl, I did refer back to some tutorials on YouTube on how to do them, because I wanted my lace work to be nice and crisp, and I wanted the detail in that lace work. because it's the feature of this cardigan. And I do recommend you do that because, like I said, I was taught to knit when I was young by my grandparents, and I used to slip knit. But then when I watched the tutorials, there are different methods, like whether you slip knit wise or slip purl wise, and whether you knit into the back and knit into the front, which just gives you really nice crisp lace work. So I mean, do what you do, and if you look at it and think, I'm actually just not that happy with it, maybe sometimes it's worth just to revisit some of those techniques. I say this often, it's such an exciting time to be a knitter because we have access to so many tutorials and just so many new techniques and patterns, and this is why I podcast, because I want to share that with you and just sort of say, hey, don't be scared to jump onto YouTube and explore some of these techniques, because there's a lot of new techniques. And you don't have to. If you're comfortable doing what you've always done, that's great as well. But yeah, it really is an exciting time to be a knitter. The other whip that I haven't worked on, and I haven't even brought it down, it's sitting upstairs in my room, is the riptide vest. I've done no work on that since I saw you last time. So it is a whip, but it's still sitting there. What I will say too about my big cleanup, it took me quite a few days to actually work through my stash, but I actually worked through a whole lot of whips that I had that I wasn't in love with anymore, and I knew that I wasn't going to finish them. And this goes back to what I said before about our knitting evolves, our tastes change, what we want out of our knitting changes. And I did have some whips there, whips that I've shared with you on this podcast, that I looked at and I thought, I'm not going to finish them. I just don't love it enough to want to finish it. So there was a few projects that I've unraveled. And needless to say, my chiaoGoo needle case now is looking nice and full. I wondered where all those needles and tips and cords got to. I found a whole lot. But I did unravel quite a few whips, and now I'm back to quite a manageable amount of whips that I love. The one that I didn't unravel was, of course, my Marie Wallen, but I'm just not in love with that enough anymore to get it finished at the moment. But other than my blueberry vodka, my riptide vest, and this, and I've got one or two little whips and some socks. Socks don't count. Yeah, I unraveled everything. So I actually feel quite empowered, quite relaxed about the whole thing. Like I've just got this clean slate, and I've got this beautiful stash that I can see. So yeah, it's really exciting. My other whip is a little one. So when I was away in Canada, I have got some yarns to show you from my trip to Canada that I didn't cover in my last podcast. But I knit a lot. And you know what? My poor husband says to me, I'd really like a beanie, Lisa. I'd really like a beanie, Lisa. And he must say that to me about 4 times every winter, and I don't knit him beanies. And I really thought I really should knit him a beanie. He doesn't wear a lot of beanies, but and then we go to stores that sell outdoors, sportswear and outdoorsy stores, and he picks up beanies, and of course they're really expensive. And I'm going like, no, don't buy that. I could knit you one of those. He says, I've been asking you for 5 years to knit me a beanie. So anyway, I thought it was time I knitted him a beanie. And what motivated me to do it was his sister actually sent me through a message, and she said, Lisa, you gave me a beanie about 4 or 5 years ago and I loved it and I've worn it to death and I need a new one. She walks the dog every day, and she wanted one. So I actually went through some of my knitwear, and I had an Oslo hat that I had knitted in a pink colour that was beautiful, but I had not ever worn it. I did it maybe 2 years ago, so I gave that to my husband's sister. So anyway, that's the Oslo hat, and that's the mohair version. Now, you don't have to, my original one I did finger in weight, and I double stranded it with a mohair. I'm doing the same pattern, but I'm using a DK yarn, and I'm doing this for my husband. Now, I bought this when I was in Canada, but the funny thing was I bought it from an Australian. There was only one Australian there. I'll show you, that's the colour. So it's a really nice, it's almost like a camel neutral brown colour. And the yarn is from Lewin Lola, and she's from Tasmania, I think. Yeah, hand dyed in Tasmania. And the yarn, let me just get my notes. So I only bought one skein of this yarn, and I did buy it thinking I'm going to take that home and knit my husband an Oslo hat with it. The yarn is Cormo, and Cormo has come about by crossbreeding Corriedale and Merino. So Cormo is actually a breed of sheep that's been crossbred to produce this yarn that they now call Cormo. And I am just going to say, this is about a sports weight. It's not a DK, because 100 grams is 365 meters. So it's a heavy 4-ply, but I am doing it on a 3mm needle. Yep. Okay, let me get it out and show you. I am doing it on a 3mm needle, which is giving me a nice tight gauge, and this pattern calls for it to be quite a nice tight gauge. She recommends a 3mm needle, and it's knitting up beautifully. I love that. I just love that gauge. It's really quite a tight gauge. It's a lot of knitting, the Oslo hat, because you knit quite a bit, and then you fold it back down on itself, and then you join it, and then you do the crown. But it's easy stockinette stitch knitting. As you can see, I haven't done a lot, but I'm determined to get it done, hopefully by my next podcast. I'd really like to give it to him. But yeah, I was excited to try this yarn. I've got to say, I have heard of it, but didn't really know much about it. And I thought, well, I probably should know more about it, considering it's, you know, here in New Zealand, we say across the ditch, and across the ditch is to Australia. I suppose it's a bit like you guys in Canada that just cross the river to go over to the States. We can't actually just get on a bridge. We do have to fly there, but it's about a 3-hour flight. And so they're our closest neighbour. And I should know more about what's going on over there with wool and knitting and their industry. But anyway, so that's a little whip that I started with yarn that I bought home from Canada. And so that's just a little whip, so that's good. Now this one, actually I just have to get a drink. Okay, so my next whip's a little one, and there's a little story behind it as well. So in my shop update, I'm going to talk to you about my myak fibres. So I met Paula from myak fibres when I was in Knit City, Toronto, and I've been communicating with her about wanting to stock myak fibres, so which I now do. I'm a stockist of myak fibres here in New Zealand. So when I come home, I set about finding a couple of patterns that I could use and recommend for the cashmere and the baby yak, because it's really quite luxurious yarn and expensive. So I thought everyone deserves a bit of cashmere in their life. So I thought little projects that are affordable. And when I was cleaning out my stash, again, I come across this pattern. Now, this pattern was gifted to me by a dear friend, and it's the Soul Sister scarf by Sari Nordlund. Now, I love Sari Nordlund's patterns. I've done a few of hers. But the one I want to show you is, so there's the big version, the big scarf, but then there's the small version, which is a bit like the Sophie scarf. Now, the Sophie scarf has been knitted thousands and thousands of times. It's such a popular pattern. I've knitted it myself, and I actually really enjoy it because I don't like things big around my neck, but it's just enough, a little thing under my jacket to keep me warm when I go out. So anyway, this pattern it jumped out at me when I was cleaning up my stash. because when my friend went back to Europe, Switzerland last year, she went to a yarn show and she brought home for me as a gift this beautiful skein of cashmere, and it's by Lang Yarns, and it's called Cashmere Dream. I'm going to show you the label. Cashmere Dreams. Now, I've never had cashmere before, so this was really special. And it's 65% cashmere, 35% silk. Now, it's only a very small little ball. It's 25 grams is 390 meters. Now, quite a tangled mess here. I've got this beautiful neutral color, and this is soft like a dream, and it's light. It's the most delicate. I can't even describe it. It's cashmere with silk. Anyway, she bought me this, and she had done this herself, so I had seen hers, and she did this a small size. Now, so this is lace weight. So what she recommended I do, and what she did, is she's double stranded it. So I've taken one from the center and one from the outside, and I'm knitting it double stranded, and I've only got this far. I'm going to tell you about the pattern. And I can't even begin to tell you how soft this is and just how light and delicate it is. It's just unbelievable. So, let me just find my notes. Here we are. So the pattern calls for 150 meters each of a lace weight and a mohair, or 2 lace weight. So like I said, this is just short of 300 meters. So I'm double stranding it. So there's my 150 meters. I'm using a size 4 needle, and the pattern is called a puff rib stitch. I've not done this before, and I did have to read the tutorial. She does give a link to the video, and I had to watch that and read it a few times before I sort of really got into the swing of it. But once you get into the swing of it, it's really quite easy. I'm going to show you again. It's squishy, and I think that's what makes it squishy, and that's what makes it soft and warm as well, because of that puff rib, it's called. The only thing I would say if you're going to do this is to, I use my chiaoGoo tips, and I would recommend you using a metal tip or a pointy tip, rather than a bamboo that's not very pointy, because you do have to go in and pick up a loop, and you really want a pointed needle for that. So my chiaoGoo tips work perfect, but I wanted to say that because I thought if you're using sort of a blunt bamboo tip, you may not enjoy it so much. It may not flow as well as it does with a pointy tip. So yeah, so like I said, there's the big version and a small version, and the bigger version you can do with DK weight yarn, which is going to make it bigger as well. But yeah, it's very much like the little Sophie scarf, but it's got that puff rib. So that's called Soul Sister Scarf. You get both versions when you buy that. And I was really, really happy to see this because this pattern was in my stash with that ball of yarn. She'd given it to me as a kit, and it went in to that big black hole that is now not a big black hole, and I was really happy to come across it. But I also will, I wanted to tell you about this pattern in case you're tempted to get some myak cashmere or baby yak. So yeah, that's the Soul Sister. And I'm going to pause to get a drink and rearrange myself, because what I'm going to, that's all my whips. That's what I'll say. So what I have got to show you next are some more acquisitions that I brought home from Canada, but quite a lot more patterns and quite a few summer patterns, because as I said before, we're in the middle of winter and it's cold and grey and yucky, but I am starting to think summer knits. I'd like to get a few things on my needles for summer, so they're ready by summer, but also because I think it just brightens the mood a bit when you're knitting something summery. Okay, I'll get my stuff ready. I did just want to mention quickly, because I don't mention it often enough, I don't think, but the Oslo hat that I'm doing is the needle type that I use, because it can make a real big difference to how comfortable your knitting is. But so I'm using a 3mm here, which is a US 2.5, but I'm using the chiaoGoo fixed cable 40 centimeter. So they're not interchangeable, they're actually fixed, and you can see this curve in it, and they are just so comfortable. So there's no magic loop or join, you literally just knitting round and round and round and round, and they just feel really sort of ergonomical, is that the right word? Like, they just feel really comfortable in your hands. And I will knit the whole beanie on that one until I get to the crown, and then when I have to decrease for the crown, I will change over to DPNs. Not a fan of DPNs, I've said that before, but these fixed circulars make everything so easy. I've talked about, I use the 30 centimeter ones for my sleeves, the 40 centimeter ones for beanies. So if you haven't got the whole interchangeable set, but you do a lot of beanies, I'd recommend you get in even just one and just giving it a go. But I'll leave the link for those, because the chiaoGoo range is quite extensive and you can get a little bit lost on the website looking for them. But I will leave the link in my links below, underneath the Oslo hat. I'll leave the link to the pattern, and I'll leave a link to that fixed cable 40 centimeter needle that I use. Okay, now the next section is I'm going to talk about some yarns and patterns, and these are matches that I've made of things that I want to knit. So they're yarns that I bought in Canada with a purpose. Actually, this first one I'm going to show you didn't have a purpose. I bought it purely on it was an emotional purchase. I loved the yarn, and I thought, well, now I'm going to have to go home and find a pattern to match it. But I was actually quite lucky. A friend helped me find the pattern. So first of all, I'll tell you about the yarn. So we left Toronto and we did a road trip, and we ended up in old Quebec City for a couple of days. And I went to a beautiful little local yarn store, and I can't remember the name of it, and I haven't got my notes here. But the girls in there were absolutely lovely, and we hung out there for a little while and had a look around. But one of the girls was knitting on a summer top, and I loved it. And I just said, oh my God, what's that yarn? It just looked crisp and it just looked beautiful. And the yarn is, let's see if I get this right, 65% silk, 35% linen. And it's a local dyer in Quebec. I don't know anything else other than that. But what she did say to me, though, is she's actually taken a break and she won't be dyeing. So the yarn that we've got there is all we've got left. And there wasn't enough of one colour. I knew I'd need 3 skeins, but there wasn't 3 skeins of any one colour that I liked. There were 3 skeins, but not in colours that I liked. And these are the 3 colours that I like. So I thought, well, I'm going to get one of each and I'll do something in stripes. And they're the 3 colours. And you can see why I love them. They almost look metallic, don't they? Like this almost looks like bronze and a platinum, and they're just beautiful. They're quite weighty, and I think that's the linen in it makes it quite weighty, linen and silk. So it's 115 grams to 454 meters. So it's 4-ply, or a heavy 4-ply. So anyway, I come home with these 3, not knowing what I was going to do with them. And I showed my friend and I said, oh, I'm going to have to do stripes. I'm a bit sick of stripes because I do a lot of stripes. And she came up with a few suggestions that were all stripes. But then I saw a week later and she said, I found the perfect pattern for your yarn. And I jumped straight on and bought it. And we won't talk about my year of not buying patterns because that just hasn't happened. But in saying that, I've got a lot of patterns to show you that have come out of my stash. Anyway, this is the pattern my friend found for me, and it's called the Vonnie Tee, and it's by Knitting Adventures. And this has 3 colours, but it's quite geometrical. Have a look at that. And this yarn is it's just going to be perfect. So I'm going to see if I can, there is another picture. Maybe there isn't. No. Anyway, this geometrical pattern calls for 3 different colors. What she has done it is in 3 different colors. There. Jump on and have a look if you're interested. It's a 25 stitch gauge. It calls for 420 to 450 of each color depending on your size. So I should get my size easily out of those 3. There is a couple of new techniques that I haven't done before, and I am going to have to look at the tutorials. One of them is a lateral braid, and I think by having a look at it, I think that lateral braid might be in parts where you adding in a new color. I'm not too sure. A lateral braid, but she includes a lot of tutorials in there. I'll just read what she's written here. Smart color work, creative, 2 bold V-neck. So it's got the big V and it's got a big V at the back, the front and back. So this is a bit that interested me as well, because I've heard this term a lot lately, the contiguous set-in sleeve. So what she's, it's completely seamless. It's got a modified drop shoulder construction inspired by the contiguous set-in sleeve method developed by Susie Myers. It's a modular type of construction, worked mainly flat in clearly defined sections. So a lot of this top section is done flat. I think the shoulders is a 3 needle. No, I won't say that, I'm not sure. I did read through it last night, but I obviously haven't taken in, I haven't written down too many notes, and I don't want to confuse it with other patterns. I'll end up talking about the wrong thing. But anyway, that's the Vonnie Tee. I'll leave you the Ravelry link for it in case it's something that you think may interest you. You don't have to do 3 colours. You can do 2, or you can even do 1. But it's quite interesting, isn't it? But it's just going to be perfect for these 3 colours. I just can't believe it. And that's it's exciting. So that was the Vonnie Tee. Okay. Now this was another purchase that I made in Canada. And I can remember saying to you before I left that I went there wanting yarns that are blends that we can't get easily here in New Zealand, and one was cotton. I've never really knitted with cotton, but I really love the crispness for summer knits. And I come across this yarn. I went to this beautiful big yarn store in Hamilton, and I'm hoping I'm going to say it right because my friend will know if I'm not. Bushy Bush. This is 100% organic cotton, and it's made in Italy. And I just love the crispness of it. So they're 3 colors that I got, and they just scream summer t-shirts. So I got those 3 colors. I went a bit overboard. I ended up buying 7. So I got those 3 colors, and then I got these 4. One of them's the same. Let me take them out. And then I got 4, 2 each of these. So it's like a charcoal and a taupe maybe. But I thought for sure these 2 are going to be stripes. And I think those 3 are going to be stripes as well. But anyway, I've got 7 of them. And most patterns that I've looked at for a summer top is around, they're 100 grams each, and most summer tops are around the 350 grams. 350 grams. So I'm thinking I'm going to get 2 summer tops. I'm just not 100% decided which top. But now this was in my, this pattern was in my folders. I'm not sure if I've shown it to you before. I know I've showed you patterns from this designer before because I've got a few of them. Paula M. She comes under, and this is called a freestyle shirt. And this is a real basic. It's actually a bit like this. I could even do another Tolsta tee striped in that cotton. But I really like the relaxed look of these. There's one in stripes. This one here is in almost like a solid black. But it's got a raglan sleeve, which I love. It's got quite a relaxed neckline. See if I wrote any notes. Seamlessly from the top down. Neckline is formed using short rows back and forth. Then it's just worked in the round for the bodies, and you go back and pick up the sleeve, and yeah, same. Top down. Yeah, nothing. It's really just a top down basic raglan. But the yarn that she has used, that's why I dug it out. The yarn that she has used is actually 90% cotton, 10% cashmere. Where the one I'm looking at using is 100% cotton. So I kind of thought they would probably behave much the same, and the result would be much the same. So I would probably use this pattern that has been specifically written for a cotton fibre, because of course cotton is plant-based versus wool, which is animal-based. Animal fibre versus plant fibre, so they do behave quite differently. So that's why I wanted to do a pattern that has been written specifically for a plant-based yarn. Yeah, so that's the Paula M shirt, and that's the cotton that I bought. The other pattern that my friend suggested, because she's knitted this, and I can't pronounce it. I think it might be German. Higestrich. But anyway, it's just called number 16. I can pronounce that. And it's this stripy top. It's quite flowy, and it's actually got quite a nice shoulder detail. So that's the other pattern that I thought I would either do one of each, or do one of them, but one in one color and one in stripes. This one here has been done in a linen flax. Yeah, so once again, it's more like a plant fiber as opposed to an animal fiber, which is why I got those two patterns out. So, you know, because I think it's a thing, right? Like if you're going to knit with animal-based fibers, well, then use a pattern that's been written specific for that, rather than trying to convert. I'm sure it can be done, but yeah, those patterns are written for cotton. So that's that. Now, this pattern I've talked about before. So this yarn isn't from Canada. This yarn's out of my stash, and I've wanted to use it. And now that I have access to my stash, I bought this from a local dyer at a yarn show last year. And it's 50% alpaca, 25% linen, 25% silk. I have shown you this yarn before. The colour's called Garden Party. But once again, it's a really nice summer blend. And I'm not sure if it's just that it's so cold and miserable here that I'm just wishing summer to come. But a lot of what I've shown you here are summer knits. So, and I've shown you the Sari, the Sari tee. This is the Sari shirt, and I think I've shown you this, and they're really similar. So the Sari tee has a deep V-neck. This one has a round neck, and it's a little bit more relaxed. But this one, I thought I wrote notes. No, I'm not sure. I think she's done that in like a 4-ply in a tweedy yarn, not a sort of silk yarn. No, I didn't do any notes. But anyway, the Sari shirt and the Sari tee are two patterns that I recommend that you have a look at if you're after a fingering weight, sort of relaxed t-shirt. I'll leave the links below for that. Okay. There was, I did buy 2 other skeins of yarn when I was in Canada, and I bought them once again thinking I really have to go home and knit my husband some beanies. I'm carrying a bit of guilt around that at the moment. So I bought these 2 skeins of yarn, and I showed you some yarn I bought from Melissa, and she's Sonda Yarn Co. And this is her Sunday morning sport. It's 65% BFL, 25% Masham, 10% cashmere. And I bought these 2 skeins because I just thought they're colours that I know my husband would wear. They're sort of neutrally masculine type. They're colours that he likes. He doesn't do brights or, you know, anything. He's a bit conservative, my husband. But I did buy these 2, and in mind I had beanies, maybe a striped one, or I don't know. But I thought I'd show you that quickly. Now this yarn, okay, I have got the name. So that yarn that I just showed you, that was silk and linen, that yarn there, I have got the name of the shop. And in Quebec, everything's French, but the name of this shop translates to Heart of Stitches. That's their little card. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it because I just don't know how to pronounce French at all. So when I was there, this is the other thing I bought from that shop. I'd seen this yarn at Knit City Toronto, but I didn't buy any. But I've heard of this yarn. Well, I call her a dyer. It's her brand of yarn. Her name's Julie Esselin. And I'm not sure if I think she might be Canadian, but she has a range of yarns. And I don't know. I know the colour jumped out at me. Yeah, so it's 90% merino, 10% silk. Nothing too different there. I mean, I know that I could get that here, but I saw these two colours together. And I love this colour, but I know I can't wear it on its own because I just look too, I don't know, sallow or yellow. But this is a really deep, I don't know, amethyst? Purple. It's a really deep purple. And I just saw these two together and I thought they were beautiful. But once again, I thought, I don't want to do stripes. I've done lots and lots of stripes. But I've got a pattern and I haven't found it because I haven't been through all my folders. But I know I've got a pattern that is colour work. It's just one main colour and one contrast colour. But the colour work starts at the yoke and goes right down the whole body, and the two colours overlap. So like you'd start with the sort of light colour and introduce the dark colour, and then the colour work works down and kind of reverses. So it's almost 50-50. It's really, really clever, and I will dig out the pattern and I'll show it to you on my next podcast. But that's what I thought I'd do with these two is colour work, but not just a colour work yoke, but almost a 50-50 colour work. So that's why I bought that. I bought two of each, knowing that's what I wanted to do rather than 3 and 1 if I was just doing a colour work yoke. So I did buy 4. And I'll keep that aside to remind me to go and find that pattern because I think it'll be really interesting. One more thing that I bought there that I thought I'll just show you really quickly. As you know, I don't knit many socks. I'd like to. I think as knitters we all want a drawer full of hand knitted socks, but I just don't get to do it. But so this is Cascade yarn. So this is nothing new. I think this is a commercial yarn that's available all over the world. I even think there's a distributor that distributes it here in New Zealand. But I hadn't seen this before. So this is, it's a sock yarn, but it's a cotton sock yarn. And it's 89% cotton, 11% nylon. Now, I've wanted to do some summer socks, some little shorties, just to wear with, you know, white casual shoes and things. But it makes perfect sense in the summer to have cotton socks, not wool socks. Although I know wool breathes and all of that. But anyway, I got these two skeins of yarn, black and white, and it's called cotton socks. And it's cotton nylon. And I know it's not very exciting. It's just black and white cotton sock yarn. But I'm sure it's available, and I'm sure someone will come through and go, really, Lisa, you can buy that down the street. But I hadn't seen it, so I did buy 2 skeins of sock yarn. Now, working through my list, I did want to say a couple of shout outs actually. Last episode, I had 2 winners. I announced the 2 winners for celebrating the fact that I got to 3,000 subscribers on YouTube. Well, both of them were from New Zealand. So I was really happy about that because, of course, when the random generator picks them, I don't know. And quite often because they have usernames that don't match their actual names, you don't know until they actually contact you. And I was super thrilled that both of them were... they're both from the North Island, but both from New Zealand, so that was quite exciting. And the other thing, and I say this often, how much I just love this knitting community, and the reason I do these podcasts is because of the knitting community, because I know there's a lot of people that are just sitting at home on their own, or, you know, it's just nice to feel like you're part of a knit group. But I put out on social media about a week ago that my podcast was being delayed because I wasn't feeling well and I had a bit of a thing going on. Well, the next day, I couldn't believe it. I was sitting here in my tracksuit, my fluffy socks, and feeling a bit sorry for myself. And I went to go upstairs, and when I go upstairs, I pass the, like where the front door is, the entrance hall. And I could see out the window, and one of my customers had left me this beautiful bunch of flowers and chocolates and lemons off her tree and a little tub of Vicks Vapor Rub, a care parcel. I was so just overwhelmed. So thank you, Marie. That was so kind, and it made my day. It really made my day. So yeah, it's just warms my heart. Okay, I'm going to stop and get a drink and clear some space, and I'm going to do a shop update. I'll tell you a few things that are new, a couple of services that I'm offering that are new. I've actually got lots of new stuff, and stuff that's not even here yet, stuff that's going to be new. Okay, quick break and I'll be back. Okay, so one of my new yarns that I've introduced into Unwind and Knit with me and to my online store is myak fibres. And I'm super excited about this. So when I was in Knit City, Toronto, I met Paola, and she's one of the founders of myak fibres, and her partner Andrea. They travelled to the Tibetan plateau where these yarns come from. But what I'd heard of myak fibres quite some years ago, because if you follow other podcasts, I think I originally heard of them on the Grocery Girls, but also Fruity Knitting, she's interviewed them. And so these two people, they spent a lot of time working with the local people in Tibet. And I hope I really encourage you to go and watch some of the interviews, because I just hope I do it justice. But they work with the local Tibetan people as a co-op, not as a big corporation or company that go in and, you know, buy up their yarn for nothing. And like, it's a real co-op, and they're really committed to the social and the environmental causes of these Tibetan people, and a lot of through direct support, fundraising initiatives, a lot of money goes back to the local people, so as though they can maintain and sustain their way of life and their culture. So what they do, it's more about uplifting the community and the people, so as though they can look after their own cultures and their own, do you know what I mean? There's just a really good lot of social good goes back to these Tibetan people where these fibres are from. So and a lot of what they use, they don't use any bleaching or decoloring of any of the fibres. So the lighter fibres can be dyed colour, the darker fibres are dark. They don't do any bleaching. Colours can vary from year to year depending on the actual animal fibre from that year. So environmentally, there's a lot of really good things going on. The fibre is bought directly from the farmers, and then it goes to artisan mills in Italy, where it is then spun into fibres. The cashmere goats, the goats that the cashmere yarn comes from, it's combed off them, but it's raised by families. So families have their own little herd of goats, and these families come from really extreme and impoverished, was I saying that right, mountain regions of the Tibetan plateau. So it's just, the story behind it is amazing, but they're buying it directly from that family, and then they're taking it back to Italy where it is then being spun. The cashmere is 14.5 microns. So I don't pretend to know a lot about microns, but I think merino sits between 18 and 20. So the lower the number, the softer it is. So 14 is extremely, I think it's one of the world's softest cashmeres. The other yarn that they do is, which I will show you, they do baby yak. And the yak, once again, it's not cut away. It's actually combed and it sheds naturally, their baby fibre. So this one, yeah, so what I have in stock is the 100% baby yak. I have the 100% mohair, and the other one I have is it's a newer one to them, and it's a blend of, so the Tibetan cloud is their wool, an extremely soft wool. So this one is 50% wool, their Tibetan cloud wool, 35% baby yak, and 15% Italian linen. So that's the third. So I've got in stock 3 of them, and I will talk more about them. But yeah, I did put on my social media, if you want to know a bit more about myak fibres, Fruity Knitting. So if you follow podcasts, you will know of Andrea from Fruity Knitting. Episode 56, and it's about 51 minutes into that episode, she interviews Paula and Andrea, and they talk about how they come to be in these regions in the Tibetan plateau with these local people. They were actually there on a completely different reason. He's there as a vet, and she was there helping them set up to produce, I think, cheese or milk from the animals. And the fact that they come across this fibre was completely by chance. They picked some up off the ground because literally the yak sheds it. They took it back to Italy where they had it tested, and it was a oh my god moment. This is the softest yarn that I've ever come across, and that's how this whole thing started. But ethically, sustainably, environmentally, it ticks all the boxes. And like I said, they operate as a co-op, not as a big corporation. Co-op isn't a corporation, is it? They work together with the people. Anyway, I won't keep going on about that. So anyway, myak fibres. So this one here, I think I've got this in 8 colours, and this is the baby yak, and it's lace weight. And I wanted to start with lace weight because it goes from lace weight to like a worsted weight, like a heavy DK. But the reason they do that, because they recommend if you want that 4 or 5 ply, that sports weight, double strand the lace weight. So I have the lace weight, and this is the top that I saw the sample of when I was at Knit City. And this picture doesn't actually give it. Oh, actually, this picture does. So what I want to say is jump on a Ravelry and have a look. So this is called Adventitious by Olga Putano. This, I don't know, Liner magazine. If you do subscribe to Liner magazine, it was in the autumn 22, and they actually featured it. So that's actually a nicer picture. So there's lace work, you can't really see it. There's lace work in the V, there's lace work down the front. There, that shows a bit better. On that one there, you can see the lace work down the back, and there's the lace work down the front. So this, where are my notes? This is knitted single strand. You don't have to double strand it. It's a very light, airy top. It requires, for my size, 3 skeins. If you're a larger size, 4 skeins. So 3 to 4 skeins will give you this beautiful top. It's a 30 stitch gauge, so it's very fine. And I just think everyone needs to have something with baby yak in their wardrobe. This, I can't even begin to describe how beautiful this is. My friend has knitted a garment in the yak, in the baby yak, the worsted weight, in the heavy. I think they call it medium to heavy. And it's beautifully soft, but it doesn't pill like wool does. And she said, like, she's worn it, and there is not one bit of pilling, but I have heard that it doesn't pill like wool does, because also the strands are long, and it's not cut off or shed. It actually sheds naturally, and it's been spun with long strands. So yeah, it doesn't pill, but if you could you just can't even imagine how soft this is. That color there is actually called mustard, and that's the original color, that top. So if that top appeals to you and you like that color's called mustard. But I think there's about 8 colors. I'm loving this color this summer. Look at that color. But anyway, so that's baby yak lace weight, and it's under myak. And that is the pattern that I saw the sample knitted up in, that I'd really like to do. My friend also bought, my friend that I travelled to Canada with, bought enough yarn in that brighter green to do that top with. So we're both going to do it. So that's the baby yak. Now this one, the reason I showed you that little scarf before, like I said, is because I wanted, let me just grab, I wanted to highlight the cashmere, because now that I have felt cashmere, I just think everyone deserves a little bit of cashmere in their life. And even if you just do a one ball project, it's just it's so luxurious. So one of these balls will do that little shawl that I showed you before, the Soul Sisters. One of these will do that in. I will leave the links below. But I did find this one, and it's Julie Hoover, and it's called the Luca. And it does require 3 skeins. So if you're after a project that's quite a bit bigger, but it's a beautiful, it's a geometric lace scarf or wrap. But you can see there it's really quite fine and delicate, and quite interesting with the geometrical eyelets, the lace work going on. It's a 22 stitch gauge, so it is really quite light, but it is quite a nice addition to the wardrobe. It's not little like the little one I showed you before. It's a bit more of a wrap, but it takes 3 balls. And of course you could do this in the baby yak, but the yarn that she's done that original pattern in is this cashmere. So that's myak cashmere. I know it's not cheap. It's a luxury item, and I won't apologize for that. It is what it is, and it's priced the same all over the world. But if you want to treat yourself to something luxurious but also support a company that's really ethical, go with myak. Now this one excites me. This one is more affordable, and I have got, I think, 8 colors. It's these top 2 shelves here. So there's pinks and blues and greens, but this is their latest edition, and I've actually lost all my notes. I've dropped them somewhere. So this one here, this is the cheaper blend of all of them. This is the 50% wool, 35% baby yak, and 15% linen. Now, what surprised me with this is I always think of yarns with linen as being a little bit crisp and, I don't know, a bit stringy maybe, but I love linen, but it never feels like wool. But this is the softest that I've ever felt, and I think it's the Tibetan cloud wool that's in it and the baby yak. But that's the Fior di Lino. It comes in about 8 colors, and it's finger in weight, but I grabbed out a couple of patterns, because what you can do here, it's just endless, the patterns, but I wanted to share some of them with you. Okay, so this one here, Locatelli, the lino, that could easily be done in this yarn, and you could do that short sleeve as well, but that's a nice crisp sort of summer one, the lino. This one here I'd love to do in the cashmere. It wouldn't be a cheap pattern to do. Let's see if I can show you a picture that shows a bit more detail. I really encourage you, if you see any patterns here that you think you might like, jump onto Ravelry and have a look, because quite often my pictures don't do it justice. This one is called the Adorable Gabriella T. Now, there's a picture of the lace work in the sleeve. Some pictures there. It is a t-shirt with a bit of detail in the sleeves. They have done this, that sample knit has been done in a finger in lace weight cashmere cotton merino blend. Oh, did I write the gauge down? I thought I was so organised, but I don't appear to be as organised as what I thought I was. I didn't write the gauge. 26 stitch gauge. So you could do that as a lace weight and not double strand it. But I'm going to leave the link for that one below. What I would say with this pattern is, if you buy it, don't print it all off if you're a Knit Companion user, because there's about 40 pages. It's a really big pattern. This one I want to show you, because this one, Tracy from the Grocery Girls wore this, and this was actually my very first introduction to myak fibres. It was quite some years ago, and I remember looking for the yarn thinking, where do you even, like, I knew that I couldn't buy it in Australia or New Zealand at the time. This top is called Machi. I'm going to show it you there. So this one is done in, I don't know where all my notes are, that's ridiculous. It's double stranded, so it's done in, I'm not sure if it's the cashmere or the yak. I'm just going to pause and get my notes, because I know I wrote notes. Okay, I'll try to be more organised. So this one here, I saw Tracy wearing this on the Grocery Girls, and it was knitted, I'll show you the pattern again. So it's called Machi, and I'll show you this picture because I want to show you the detail in the split hem and the sleeve. Isn't that gorgeous? So this one here was knitted in this colour mustard, and it's in the baby yak. Now, I've done a rough calculation. This is held double to do this pattern, and you would probably need 7 to 8 skeins. So it is quite the project, but if it would be that one garment that you would just love forever. You know it's going to be warm, it's lightweight, and it's not going to pill. It's just beautiful. And like I said, it was quite some years ago, and I got on and bought the pattern when I saw Tracy wearing it. I think this is before I started podcasting, and I didn't even know how to do a yarn substitution, because at the time I didn't even realize what baby yak was. So I'm going back quite a while ago. So there are quite a few colors in that, but I just thought I'd show you that, because that sample was done in the myak baby yak. Right, now I'm just going to show you patterns that I have dug out of my folders, and they're patterns that I've bought because I've loved them. They're patterns that I haven't knitted, But now that I've got these myak fibres, I'd like to knit. This one here is called Cloudsley, and it's by Isabel Kramer. I love Isabel Kramer designs. So once again, it's summer. It's a summer top. It's got quite a plain front. It has detail around the band, but it's got that beautiful lace pattern that was running down the back. So I do really like that one. It's a 24 stitch gauge. It is top down. It's fingering to sports weight yarn. And like I said, it's just one that's, I'm just loving summer knits. I want to do summer knits at the moment. So this one, I'm just going to flick through these quickly because over time I have shown you these before. This is the Salty Air Tea, and this is another fingering weight summer yarn. It's got lace work, a lace work yoke. It's cropped, which of course you don't have to do it cropped. This is a really popular pattern. Jump on and have a look at other people's projects on Ravelry. It is really, really popular, but that would be beautiful in the yak linen. So that's the Salty Air Tea. Okay. This one I wanted to give a shout out to. So when I was in Canada, we went to a place called Muskoka. We went to a craft brewery there. We also went to a maple syrup farm, and I went to a local yarn store. And this pattern, they had the sample. I really liked it, so I bought the pattern. Didn't buy the yarn because it was actually our last stop before we went back to the airport, and I couldn't buy any more yarn. But it has been done in I'm pretty sure it was a linen cotton blends, and it's called Falling Petals Tea. And you're going to have to jump on a Rav and have a look. It's really, really pretty. Once again, lace cable work. It's just a nice plain tea with feature in it, but that could also be done in that linen yak blend. I have got some more here, but I think I might wait and show them to you. I'll show you two more. This one's Isabel Kramer. This is a pattern I bought a long time ago as well because I've wanted to do it forever. This one has been done in 100% linen, but it's called the Colman. Lacework, summer tea. I'm just really putting the whole summer vibe out there to the universe, aren't I? Come on, summer. And the last one, I won't show you that one. I've just got too many, actually. I think I went a bit overboard. Sorry about that. But what I will say is go on and have a look at that episode of Fruity Knitting, episode 56, 51 minutes in. It's a really nice interview, and it'll give you a little bit of an insight to myak fibres. The other thing I've offered, which is a new service, which is on my online store, on my website. If you buy yarn off me, I am offering a ball winding service. Now, I know that not everybody has a Swift and a ball winder, and there's nothing worse than finally getting possession of your beautiful 4 or 5 skeins of yarn and not being able to wind them. I used to use the back of 2 chairs, or I used to get one of the kids or my husband to hold it out while I madly wind them. I have invested in an electric ball winder. You can select it as a service, $2.50 per skein, and that really just covers time and wear and tear on the equipment. But if you are buying yarn and you want it pre-wound, so when you get it home you just start knitting, it's under ball winding service on my website, so feel free to do that. I have got a special on at the moment. I have these 400 meter skeins of mohair, and they are really difficult to wind. So I am winding these free of charge at the moment. So if you are after, it's a beautiful silk, kid silk mohair. If you're after some mohair, don't be put off by the fact that it's in a skein, because I will wind it automatically free of charge. You don't have to select the service. It will just come to you already wound. I'm going to use that as a wee segue into, let me just grab these things. I showed you that salty air tea, and the other pattern is the Elton pullover and the Elton cardigan that have been really popular. And they're a combination of striped mohair and fingering weight, alternate stripes of fingering weight and mohair. And I was playing around in my shop last week, and I came across a couple of combinations that I thought were just beautiful. So I wanted to share them with you. So the Mondim is my 100% Portuguese wool. There's 400 meters here, and that's the kid silk mohair. And I just couldn't believe how perfect some of these matches were. So this one's conch shell, and this one is A583. These just have numbers. But have a look at that. That would just be so pretty. The other one is, if this is sort of, if you like neutrals, which I do like neutrals, this one is called Luna, and it's number 500. But look at those two. If you wanted something that was sort of a bit more neutral. They're just beautiful. That label. I love those labels. But that one's Luna and number 500. This one, I haven't got much of this left. This one's called Monet, which is a beautiful, my friend's knitting this at the moment. Monet with number 568. And I think there's just enough contrast there to make it really interesting. So that's those two. And the last one is silver, and that's number 567. So it's like your silver and grey. But you could put any of those together. But if you are wanting some mohair, that will come already caked up for you. Okay, I'm nearly finished. The other new thing that I have in my store is from a company I come across in Canada, but they're actually based in Pennsylvania, I think. And it's called All Stitch Studios. And they're a very young company that are just putting together notions and things that just make knitting a pleasure, a bit more luxurious. But I've been using these and I absolutely love them. But they're stitch markers that look like, can I do that with that tip in? They look like wee little daisies, wee flowers. They're magnetic, which I really like because I do have a couple of things that hold my stitch markers that are magnetic. They are super smooth. They're snag free. They're just, I don't know, luxurious. They're really lovely. But that's the big box set. That's the biggest, most expensive set. But they come like this. So this is a set of 32. And they're the little flowers. They call that the warm tone, and this is the cool tone. There's about another 6. So there's also just the plain rings that aren't flowers. There's some gold stars. There's a whole lot of different other varieties. But on my website, if you just search All Stitch or All Stitch Studios, All Stitch being one word, I will leave the link below. You can jump on and have a look at those. They're really pretty. I didn't know I wanted to be a stockist. I bought some because I loved them and I thought, oh, they're really pretty and they're really different. And they were something I'd never seen before. So I actually bought this little box set when I was in Canada. And it wasn't until I got home and I started using them that I thought, wow, these are actually really special. These are really neat and they're different. So I made contact with the supplier, and I'm now bringing them in and selling them here. So yeah, that's what's new there. I think I only have one more thing. The other thing I have on my website, I've done it before and they were super popular. I sold out really quickly. But I have what I call a mystery yarn balls. So when I have got end of batch numbers, so I might only have 1 or 2 and I've ordered a new order in and the batch numbers are different, I'm winding them into cakes and I'm wrapping them in white tissue paper and I'm selling them at cost price. So I'm not making anything on them, but I'm selling them as a mystery. So you don't know what you're going to get until you get it home. I have written whether it's 100% merino or whether it's maybe an 80-20 sock. But they're on my website. They're called mystery yarn balls. They're already wound and caked up, and they are really quite cheap. And I think they're really good. Like even if you're doing kids things or blankets, or you're just doing scarves or shawls and you just want an array of different colors, they're a really good option and they're a nice little surprise. So mystery yarn balls. One more thing I needed to talk about. I promise we're nearly finished. If you're still with me, I really appreciate it. I just love, and I never take it for granted that you support my channel and that you choose to spend time with me. So I've got it on here. So I've talked about Elizabeth from Amikihia Knits. She was the designer of this cardigan. Her and I have done a collaboration together, and I said you have to use Yarnadelic. I said it is by far just such a beautiful yarn. So I sent her away with some and for her to design a garment, and she come back with this and I'm just so in love with it. So at the moment it's with the test knitters. It's called, I'm going to forget what it's called. I'm going to have to, doesn't matter what it's called because it's not released yet anyway. But this is it here. So it's a colourwork yoke jersey. It's such a beautiful, delicate colourwork pattern. I just absolutely love it. The yarn is stunning. Oh, here it is. I knew I had a note. It's going to be called the Scarlet Oak, as in oak tree. There is 1 main colour and 3 contrast colours. I talked about getting minis, mini skeins in for the colour work, but the minis are too small for the colour work. So what Elizabeth has done is she has, to go with this colour work yoke jersey, she has designed a beanie. So the leftover contrast colours can be knitted into a beanie with that same colour work pattern, and the beanie pattern is going to be included free of charge with the jersey pattern. So, and the reason we've done that is because you don't want all that leftover yarn, right? So to be able to knit it into a beanie will be really neat. It is, did I say it's Yarnadelic, which is a 5-ply sports weight yarn out of the John Urban Textiles mill. I am going to do kits. She's hoping to have it finished test knitting and everything early August. I've ordered all the yarn, so I hope to have that here, my new shipment of Yarnadelic, by the end of July. We're going to make up 3, maybe 4 colorways. I have not done a test knit because I just haven't had time, but a friend of mine has offered to do one for me in a different colorway. So this one here's been done in the rusts with sort of neutrally colors. Well, my friend's doing the test knit in a version for me that's in blues. So I'll have that to show you, and I'm going to have Elizabeth come on and do an episode with me where she'll talk about her process and her inspiration for the design. We will model the two that we have. Hopefully we'll have some pictures of what some of the other test knitters have done, and I'm super excited. I mean, it's a top down in the rounds yoke construction colorwork jersey in a really fabulous easy to wear yarn, so there's just going to be so much to love about it. So I am excited. I've never done a collaboration before, and it'll just be so nice to see a yarn that I love so much knitted into something that was designed for it. So anyway, that is I will show some snippets on my social media when my test knit is finished. I'll take some photos and show it to you just to get you excited about some color combinations. And I think I'm just about done. I'm at the end of my list. Once again, thank you for spending your time with me. Thank you for subscribing to my channel. It really means a lot. And for everyone that jumps onto my website and supports my little yarn store, it means a lot. It gives me a means of to support myself so I can actually do these podcasts, which is really cool. I think that's about all I had to say. Please subscribe. Leave messages. I do read everyone's messages and eventually get back and reply to everybody. Thank you to everyone that sent me their well wishes for me to get over my cold and flu. It's nice to be on the right side of it. I actually feel really grateful that it hasn't hung around too long. I've got a couple of friends that have had it and it's sort of taken them a good 2 weeks to get over it. So I am grateful, touch wood, that I have actually gotten over it quite quickly. And my shop, I work from home, so I always open by appointment. So if you're in Christchurch or visiting Christchurch and you want to come and have a look, just reach out to me via my website or phone or text. And I open most Saturdays from 10 to 2, but if not, I'll always open by appointment. But yeah, jump onto my website and have a look. Thank you very much. I hope wherever you are in the world, you're either staying really cool or really warm in this crazy world that we live in. And I hope you're getting lots of knitting done. But wherever you are, stay happy, stay healthy, and I'll see you in a few weeks. Thank you. Bye.